Hello and welcome to Sheffield Board Gamers podcast. My name's Rick. I'm joined today by Samuel. Hello, Samuel.
Hello.
Hello, and I'm also joined by Tom as well. Hello, Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom L. Yeah, and it's Samuel, not Sam from last week.
It's not. Yeah, it's a different Samuel, not Sam from last week. Just wait till we have a second Rick.
There's too many Sams and too many Toms, and yeah.
Not enough Ricks.
No. I'll have the wall on 1 week and that'll really confuse you.
Thanks to both of you for joining us. We're just a bit of information about the club. We're a board games club, so we meet twice a week to play games, tabletop games in general, and we're open to everybody. So anybody who wants to come and play some games with us can come and join us. We've got a packed show for you today. We've got quite a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about some games that we've been playing recently. We've got a question of the week, which is, do you play any of the classic games? We're going to hear from one of our club members about what games he's been playing recently. But first, we've got some good news. Tom, your Kickstarter's funded.
Yes, it finished a little while back, and it hit its funding level, which is great. So I've now got to do more hard work.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yes, well done, Tom.
And I know
Very
you've
good.
been working really hard on it, sort of demoing and playtesting and things like that. So yeah, congratulations. That's
Yes.
really good news. I'm really pleased.
Thank you. Yes.
Yep.
Now
Same
you've
here.
got to actually make a game, but yeah, physically make the game and get it out to people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
Do you know roughly how long that's going to take, or what's the plan next?
The plans are the card art is pretty much there. I've just got to have a few tweaks done to the designs on the cards, and that's about a 10-15 minute job. The box has got to be not fully laid out. Most of it's sorted. It's just reformatted from what I've had for my prototype in a tuck box to have it for a 2-part box. And the biggest bit is rulebook. Whilst I've got the rules written, they're just as a Word file at the moment, and so I've got to lay it out as an A6 booklet, and I'm not fully happy with some of the character descriptions that I've got in there, so I've just got to reword some text and things. So not so much to do, but a bit. So the plan is July, early August, get all the files sorted, get the files over to the printers sort of middle of August time, check to make sure everything's okay. I'm going to open up the Kickstarter just for a week or so for late back. So use my pledge manager for late backers end of August, just for a week or two, whilst I'm at Tabletop Scotland and things, and put the order in with the printers beginning of September. That should be completed in early October time, ready for dispatch. October, early November if it's got unexpected delays. That's the plans.
Excellent. Well done, Tom.
Yeah, that's really good news. Well done. We had our Sunday session this month, and we played lots of games. It's a good gaming day, really. So when we play on a Tuesday evening, obviously we've just got the evening and people turn up at 7 o'clock and play games. But the Sunday session's a really good kind of day, a full day to play longer games, or a good variety of games if you like. You know, like playing lots of different types of games. So one of the games that we played at the Sunday session was Railroad Inc. And this is a roll and write. So on the last podcast, we talked about roll and write games, and we played a bunch then. And this is another of that genre. In Railroad Inc., what you're trying to do is you're trying to build connections between lines sort of on a grid. So it's slightly different to the other one in that you don't get a pad, you get like a dry erase board, and you get some markers. And there's 4 dice that get rolled each turn. So you have to draw those dice into your pad, and that gives you a route. And there's either train tracks or
motorways,
roads.
Yeah,
roads are the other things, and there are also stations as well that kind of link them together. And you're joining these lines up, and you get points for the longest road, the longest train track. You get points for the bit that you filled in the middle, and so on. So this plays from 1 to 6 players. Plays in about 30 minutes. And this is another good roll and write, I thought. I really enjoyed playing it. It was fairly straightforward, but we just played the base game. There are some extra rules in there and some dice for a sort of kind of built-in module, built-in expansion thing which adds a meteor and a volcano, I think.
So that's the red version, I think, with the meteor and volcano. There's the blue version with a river instead.
Ah, is there another version as well?
So yes, there's the red Railroad Ink and there's the blue Railroad Ink. And the blue one has river dice.
Right, yeah, it was the red one that we played, yeah.
Yeah, I think Tom C mentioned that because I played it with him a while back, a couple of Sunday sessions ago, and he mentioned there were a couple of versions at the time.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it because you have to fill in your pad with the dice results. So you get 4 results each turn, so you're kind of filling in the squares and trying to link together these transport links. And it's kind of a bit of a pushy look element in there as well, because you can kind of start off going in one direction and hope that you get the results that you want on the dice. You don't always get that, and sometimes you have to change your plans a little bit. So I quite liked that side of it.
There's also those special options where you can choose, I think, is it 3 or 4 of them out of the wild? Yeah.
3, I think. You get 3 during the whole game.
Yeah, there's some special links at the top, isn't there, that you can use, which is like a crossroads with a train attached, or a T-shape with a road attached to it, and they kind of help you out as well in certain circumstances, especially if you kind of backed yourself into a corner a little bit. You can use those to sort of get out of it and score a few extra points. But yeah, it was really good. I think the dry erase thing is a good idea because you're not relying on a pad of sheets that'll eventually run out. Then you kind of reuse it as much as you want.
Yeah,
I've played these kind of games before where the pens kind of dry out after a while, but you can get normal dry erase pens from anywhere, can't you? So you can always replace those.
It's just if the board eventually gets marked, if you're rubbing out and whatever so many times. I've seen some bit like that. Like at the treehouse where they've been played a lot and it's sort of not really rubbed off. Eventually it sort of stopped rubbing off properly.
Well, I think they just need to be taught the benefit of ethanol to help with the dry razor, or
probably.
Or actually, but baby wipes work wonders. My son had some dry erase books for when he was younger, and we discovered that wet wipes are really good for removing dry erase marker from those kinds of surfaces.
So have you guys played the blue one at all, or have you just played the red one?
I've just only played and only seen the red one.
Yeah. Similarly, I only had access to Tom C's version, and that was the red version, but we didn't play the special thing ones at that point either. So
I think from the one that I played, it was pretty straightforward. There wasn't a lot to it. It was just basically trying to optimize, where you're putting your roads and your train tracks, but I guess the dice will allow you that extra. So once you've played it a few times, and you're kind of getting a bit bored of it, you can throw in the extra rules and the extra dice, and that'll add some more stuff to think about. So I quite like that as well. You can start off like quite simple and then add more stuff to it as you get used to the game and add a bit more of a challenge. So it was good. Yeah, so I really liked that. Yeah, it was really good. And another game that we played recently was A Fake Artist Goes to New York. So it's a bit of a weird title, but it does kind of lead into the theme. The goal behind this one is to try and find out who the fake artist is. So this is another one with a dry erase board, funnily enough, as well. You get some markers and some little boards, and on the boards you get a clue. So the clue could be anything. It could be a building or a person or a food or whatever it might be. But one person's going to be the fake artist, and they don't know what the clue is. The other people will get a chance to draw on a shared pad. So there'll be like a little notepad in front of everybody, and you'll get a coloured pen, and you draw one mark. I think that's right, isn't it, Samuel? You draw one mark per person, and then it goes on to the next one.
You have one continuous line on your turn, then it goes to the next person. Everybody will draw 2 lines during the game.
A line, that's it. Yeah. So it could be a line, but as long as you don't take your pen off the paper, it could be something quite complicated, or it could be
it could just be a dot or
something as simple as a dot. Yeah. Which we did actually see. So it goes around, and then the next player draws a line as well, and then the next player draws the line, and then it gets to the fake artist, and he has to try and draw a line without giving away that it doesn't know what it is he's drawing. And then it goes around twice, so everybody draws twice. And then at the end, you try and identify who the fake artist is. So you can see what's being drawn on the pad, and you can see what coloured pens people have. And then there's usually a bit of discussion at that point to say, what I don't understand what this is supposed to be, or this looks like rubbish to me, or whatever it might be. And then there's a kind of vote, isn't there, to try and find out who the fake artist is.
Point to who you think the fake artist is.
Yeah. And let me get this right, if they identify the artist, he can still win if he can guess what the clue is. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah.
Yes, that's the right way around, isn't it? So if you don't find the artist, if you point to somebody else and they get identified, then the artist wins just automatically. But it's one of those games where you want to be kind of vague, but not vague enough that people don't know what it is, what you're drawing. But vague enough so you don't want the artist to figure out what it is. So there's a few games that do that kind of thing, like Spyfall, and Dixit has a bit of that as well. But I really like that mechanic, and I like how this one plays up to 10 players as well. So this is 5 to 10 players.
Wow, that's a lot.
And it takes 20 minutes. So I really like this game. It's really funny. It's one of the games where I can play like 4 or 5 times on the trot, and just really enjoy it each time.
Yeah, because you'll be quite different depending on what the topic and what the clue is that you've got. So drawings for something like fish might be completely different to drawings for something like, I don't know, I can't think of something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be different to drawings for Donald Trump or something. You get a completely different set of things, and depending on who the spy is and who goes in what order. And
there's a couple of downfalls, I think, to this game. The first is that you need 5 players to play it.
Yeah.
Which is, if you've got a lot of people, then that's ideal. I mean, that's really good because it goes up to 10.
Yeah.
But if you've got like 4 players, then you kind of you can't really do it as well. And then the other thing that I wasn't quite sure about was that one person has to give you a clue. So I think when we played it, we kind of picked somebody who wasn't playing the game, and he gave us a clue, and that allowed us to play, with fewer players.
Yeah.
But if you've got a group together, somebody gives a clue, and obviously they know what the clue is then, and they know who the spy is because they have to write it on the board. So they'll either have to sit out the round until the next round, or you need to get someone in who's not playing the game to give you a clue, which isn't a bad thing because it's so quick that it doesn't really matter anyway.
Yeah,
it's a quick game, so it doesn't matter if you give a clue, and it's quite interesting trying to think up a clue as well because it could be anything, couldn't it? You pick a category and then the clue could be anything you want.
Yeah, and you can win the game as the person doing the clue if the spy wins. So you still get to participate into it to some extent, don't you? Yeah.
That you get points at the end of it. Is that like a round thing then? Do you get some points or is that just the entire game?
I think that's just the entire game. I mean, you could play it over a series of rounds if you wanted to. I guess you could easily do that.
I like the pictures at the end as well. When you look in the box, when you open the box for the first time, you've got pictures in from the last time you played.
Yeah,
and you can see like the pictures in there that people have drawn, and
you label them with what the topic was and what the clue was and whether the fake artist won or not, what their colour was, and so on.
Yeah, so it's quite fun looking at those as well. You end up with something that you can kind of keep and look at and say, "Oh yeah, I remember that game."
Or if it's one you weren't playing, you're going, "What on earth happened in that game? How has that got to do with this? What's going on?"
It's a skateboard.
Sometimes it does end up looking like what the clue is, but sometimes it just goes off on a tangent, doesn't it? And you end up with just random stuff all over the page.
Yeah,
it's really good. Yeah, I really like this one. It's I generally do like that kind of game where you get a traitor and you can try to guess out who it is without being found out and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but this one, it's really good. I liked it a lot. And as well, it comes in a tiny little box, doesn't it? It's like a really small little box.
Well, it's Oink Games, and they're all their games in those kind of small boxes.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, really portable.
They did Deep Sea Adventure as well. Another one that's well known.
So it's good to take to places.
Yeah.
Because you're not filling up a bag with something that's meaty and heavy and can bludgeon someone to death if you dropped it on them.
It's a party pocket game.
Yeah, good time to take to a pub if you've got a gathering or something, because it doesn't require a lot of board game knowledge, or even you need to necessarily like board games. A huge deal. It is more of a party game.
It's definitely a family game, isn't it? You can play with anybody basically.
You can easily tailor it to most groups, I would think, because you decide the theme and the clues. So.
Yeah, sometimes when you play these kind of games, it is a bit confusing to start off with because you say, you're trying to explain it and you're saying somebody knows what it is, but you want to be vague but not too vague, and people look at you and say, "What?" But once you've actually played it, once you've played around it, you know it's
makes a lot more sense.
You know how it works. Yeah. And then you jump into a second round and everybody knows what they're doing. Yeah, brilliant. I really like this one. Yeah. Okay. What games have you guys been playing?
I played Teotihuacan or Teotihuacan or it's the South American pyramid game. Which has got a number of T's in, more vowels than make sense, and ends in an N. I think it's Twitty How Are You Ken or Teotihuacan or I don't know. It's a mouthful of consonants and vowels.
Yeah.
But it's one that I'd heard good things about, and it's one that had been on my I want to play this game list, and my friends had got it, and they'd said to me a while back, we've got it. It's like, yeah, I really want to play this. And because I've been demoing so much the last 4 or 5 weeks, just not been able to get to a gaming session. And because they said normally it takes us sort of 3.5 hours to play, didn't come down on Tuesday, and I actually went to my friends to play that because we wanted to have enough time to get it played. And yeah, we started shortly after 8, finished about 11, half 11, because it was my first game of playing, so it says up to sort of 2 hours on the side of the box, and we went, well, it'll take a little bit longer to explain the rules and so on. And it's a decent sized board, and it's basically, you do things each round, and there's point scoring. So there's a semi-variable number of rounds. Basically, each round you move the sun along the sun track until it reaches to the moon. And when it reaches the moon, it's an eclipse, and then that resets. And you do that till you hit 3 eclipses. But when you hit an eclipse, you score points. And there's a number of there's 8 different positions for your workers to be on, and your workers range in aptitude from level 1 to level 5, and whenever they do something, by and large, there's options for them to improve their aptitudes to go from 1 to 2, and up to all the way to 5, and once you hit 5, you then ascend, and there's loads of things going on, and so it's got a good bit of heft to it. It's not some of the lighter games I've been playing more recently. 4 of the spaces are resources. So you've got a gold resource, you've got a stone resource, you've got a stick resource, and you've got the starting space, which is kind of a wild number of resources where your work can be locked into. You've got other spaces where you have got building the pyramid in the middle, so you've got some nice square solid blocks, and it's a bit like mahjong pieces, but and this is for building your pyramid. You've got one which is where you're building houses for the Trail of the Dead. I don't fully understand how that links into things, but that's an important point. And you've got one area where you're decorating the steps on your pyramid, and you've got a tech chart which gives you extra victory points and other things for landing in certain places. And during your turn, you get to move one of your workers to a different square and do an appropriate action. But you've got to balance the amount of cocoa you've got, which we kept on calling coffee because it's a bean icon. And we saw it and it's like, oh, that's a coffee bean. And one of my friends, Chris, was just getting annoyed. It's like, it's cocoa. So, by 11 o'clock when we're needing the cafe, it's like, oh, I don't have enough coffee for this. And he was just getting properly irate at this point, going, it's cocoa, damn it. It's like, sorry, yes, it's cocoa, not coffee. Sorry, we'll go for a mocha or something. But anyway, it's really key keeping the amount of cocoa that you've got, because one of the players, Brian, just did not get his cocoa levels right and was really struggling through the game, and he managed to get to 100 points at the end. The rest of us were sort of 140, 160 something, or 170 something. So it really does hamper you if you've not got your cocoa levels right, because this enables you to do different things. You've really got to balance all your different actions to try and get the most optimal set of actions to do, and yeah, there's lots of little things at different places, and there are points where you can interfere with your opponent's plans, not greatly, but just a little bit, and yeah, there's just a lot to think about, and for sort of a 3-4 minute discussion doesn't do it enough justice. But it's definitely a game I'd like to play again, because I really enjoyed it on Tuesday when I played it. There's enough to think about, but not too much for your brain to burn. So once we've sort of played a few rounds, it's quite easy to get to grips with, but it just does take a while to go through the rules to understand what each of the 8 different bits do, and to start working out how the different things connect. Definitely play once, learn it, play a second time, and really get into the meat of it a lot quicker.
Yeah, it sounds similar to a game we played. We were in the same boat. We played a bit of a longer game the other day, and it's one of those that takes a bit to learn it. But once you kind of got the gist of it, you kind of see, what else you can do with it. It's easy to learn like what the spaces is and what the actions do, but how they all tie together, that's probably going to come more on your second play, isn't it?
I'd like to say so, but I managed to whoop my friends despite them having played before and it was my first game. So definitely second time round, I think I have a better grasp on of it and can play more optimally rather than sort of an element of luck, I suspect. Beginner's luck.
Yeah, I haven't played this one, but it looks really nice. Yeah, I've had a look at the photos, and it looks really good.
It's definitely an impressive game, and for its cost, I don't know how much it costs exactly, but there's enough in there. You don't kind of feel like you'd be shortchanged, if that makes sense.
You mentioned the mahjong type tiles. They look quite good as well. You kind of stack them up in the middle, don't you?
Yes. So there's a pattern spotting element as well. So you can build a tile which gets you a certain amount of points. But if you can match the symbols with what's on the level below, the more you match, the more points you get. And also there's some with coloured symbols, and that helps you with a different chart. So there's plenty of puzzle elements at different spots, and because there's different technologies available and some different point scoring, you can play this game several times. And each game, there's those different puzzle elements brought in because one certain tech will be different, or some of the techs will be different, giving you different options. Some of the victory point things will be different, and so what you're trying to achieve will differ based on this. And there's some solo play elements in there as well, so it's a game that you can play solo, but how on earth you do that, I don't know. So what have you been doing, Sam?
Following on a bit from last week and the talk about digital board games, one game I do play a lot digitally, if not much tabletop, is Star Realms, which I really like, which for those that don't know is a deck building game. So you start off with a deck of 10 cards, and during the game you'll be building that up and getting to sort of maybe 20 to 30 cards by the end of the game. I mean, there's quite a few different deck builders around, but I particularly like this one because it's got a very simple sort of aim, which is basically to reduce the opponent's health, or authority as it calls it, down to 0. And they're obviously trying to do the same to you. So it's largely a 2-player game. So yes, you're trying to reduce the other person's authority / health down to 0, which is, I think it's quite just a easy, very simple sort of straightforward idea. So then the cards will give you one of 3 things essentially when you play them. They'll give you money to buy more cards, attack to get rid of your opponent's authority, or give you authority back, or some combination of those things, as well as allowing you to draw cards and then scrap cards from your deck, which is a key point of, I think, most deck builders, is to get rid of cards you don't want anymore and make your deck get rid of your not very good starting cards, and instead have mostly newer, shinier, better cards. But one of the main things I really like about it is the way the combos work, because there are 4 different factions in the game, which each have a different colour, so it's red, yellow, blue and green. And a lot of the cards, you'll put one down, and then if you put another one down of the same colour, it'll trigger something else on the first one, and the first one could also trigger something on the second one, potentially. And that can stack quite nicely, so you can put sort of a couple of cards down that'll allow you to draw some more, you'll put those down, that'll allow you to do something else, which will allow you to do something else, and you can get more things, and you can, if you get the right kind of cards, you can stack up a lot of damage or health or whatever. I find it sort of very satisfying when you pull it off and wallop your opponent for 30, 40, 50 damage in a turn.
Yeah, I really like Star Realms. Yeah, it's a great game. Yeah, I really like it as well.
It's so simple to pick up. I mean, I've sort of got a hang of it now. I've been playing with a lot of the expansions online. I mean, I play a lot against the AI, and you can cheese the AI a bit. I've had some very silly games where I've put up a silly deck and just ramped up my health and I had one game where I ended up on about 250 health or something. And yeah, I ended up about I think I did 71 damage or something, or 72 damage on my last turn. That game was a bit.
That sounds a bit monstrously mental.
It was. I got this sort of quite good deck go where I was just gaining loads of health every turn. I basically played my entire deck every turn, and I had like 14 bases out. It was a bit mad.
Yeah, it is really good. And what you were saying about the damage as well.
Yeah.
Your authority is like your health, isn't it? It starts off about 50.
Yeah.
And when you first start playing a couple of hands, you do like one or two, and you think, oh, this is going to last forever. But it doesn't take long for it to snowball, and suddenly you're hitting for, like you said, 20 or 30 or more each turn.
Yeah, I mean, you've got cards that do sort of 5, 6, 7 damage in one card. And, you can stack them. I mean, one of the blue faction, whose name escapes me for some reason, has got one of the ships that costs 2 money, is called Cutter, and it gets you, if you just play one Cutter, you get 4 health and 2 money. If you combine it with another blue card, you get 4 damage as well. And if you get all 3 Cutters in 3 cards, you can get 12 health, 6 money, and 12 damage.
Yeah.
Which, and you spent 6 money to get all 3. I mean, you've got to come out, obviously, but I mean, I always try and grab a Cutter if there's one there, because it's just, I mean, it's 4 health and 2 money for a 2 money card. It seems quite a good deal to me.
That combination that you say is really good as well, because when you're first starting off sort of building your deck, you can go for, you want to try and get those combos where you get a couple of cards in your hand of the same colour, so they run the combos. But then again, some of the cards will give you stuff that you need. Like if you really need money, do you buy a green one, even though you're not really collecting green, just because it gives you 2 or 3 money each turn? So that kind of decision that you're making in the middle of a game is really good. Yeah,
and the different different factions have a slightly different focus. So the red faction, the machine cult that's the one that has all the scrapping cards in it. So it's useful to get those, because then you can get rid of all your rubbish starting cards.
Yeah.
Whatever. So you're not repeatedly going through rubbish. The blue faction, as we discussed, has all the healing cards in it, so that's quite useful for keeping your health up. The yellow faction has a lot of cards that will make your opponent discard cards from their hand. So I had to game against the area recently where he was discarding at least 1 card a turn, because I had a couple of yellow bases out, and I had rare turns where I was discarding 2 or even 3 cards. So you can do that. And then the green one has a lot of cards, or a fair few cards that like to trash cards in the market row and replace them with other ones. So just cycle that a bit, which can be quite good. It does. I think most factions do a fair bit of damage, but I feel like the green red ones do maybe a bit bigger damage than some of the other ones. Certainly the blue one's a bit lower, I think, because of the healing. But
and the app is really good as well, isn't it? The app's brilliant for it.
Yeah, the app's really nice. We had last year, for the first time, I joined in the sort of annual Star Realms online league we have at the club. Paul, if you're listening, are we going to have another one soon? I've mentioned it a couple of times, but so I joined last year. There was 9 of us, and I was sort of, I'll join. I'll see sort of how it goes. I mean, before that, I'd not played much. I'd only had it a few months before then. I'd played Hero Realms a bit before then. I'd got Hero Realms a year and a quarter ago, and played that a fair bit.
Yeah, I played that actually at the club at the weekend. I played Hero Realms, and it's very similar, isn't it? It's pretty much the same game, just a different theme.
Yeah, it's a spin-off. They did it's a fantasy theme spin-off. But yeah, so we started the league, and I thought, well, we'll see how this goes. I don't expect I'm going to do very well. And early on, that's what it looked like. I got a couple of heavy defeats. Paul the G was getting some pretty heavy wins. And then I went on holiday for a week and actually played quite a lot on holiday. And so sort of improved a lot. And then after that, I went on an enormous run of just winning lots of games. And in fact, I ended up winning the league last year. So I've got a little trophy in my house. So it's another reason I'd like to have another one. I'd like to try and have the chance to defend my trophy. I mean, I quite like it because I can boot the app up and jump into a game and be sort of instantly know what I'm doing. Can instantly look at the opening row and go, right, what factions do I want this turn? How am I going to do this one? What am I going to get? Well, I can grab that, I can grab this. You can just dive into it in seconds once you know what you're doing. It's just, particularly on the app, it's really quick.
The app's got the Colony Wars expansion. It's like a separate set of cards, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got all the expansions.
You've got all the expansions on there, like the heroes and the other stuff in there as well. You can put those in as well if you want.
Yeah.
Which mixes it up a bit.
Yeah, and I can chop and change between which ones I've got in. But the other thing that's really nice on the app compared to real life is you don't have to do any shuffling. It shuffles everything automatically.
Do you need the expansions, just as a question as if we've not played this, do you need to have all the expansions to be competitive? Or if you just say, if I went and picked up the starter set would I be able to craft something from that and be fairly competitive? Disadvantage if I was to then play you, Samuel, other than the fact that you've played a few more times and are clearly the club champion.
Well, I mean, I think there are people who are probably better than me, potentially. Although I have had a lot since last year. But when we were doing it online, whoever was sort of hosting, we each had the expansions we'd got listed. You could only pick from ones that your opponent had. So you weren't allowed to pick any that they didn't have, so that you only used ones you both had. So I went that way. But I mean, the expansions only really had, a lot of them add new cards of the same type as the base game. One or two do add some slightly different cards, but they're pretty simple. And if you're not playing with those, it's
right. Okay, so
there's only one deck and one market row, isn't there? Which is like shared between the players.
Yeah.
So whatever expansions you put in, that's not your deck. It kind of goes into the central deck, and all the cards come out. Yeah. So you've got an equal chance of drawing the same stuff.
Right. Okay. So
yeah, it's not a CCG or anything. It's a game where you build the deck as you play the game.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's really good. I don't like the cards that keep track of the scores. In the real game, you get like some cards that you can flip over, but when we played it, we just use a Magic the Gathering app, to keep track of the scores.
Yeah.
And you just tap it to down data. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, the Star Realm scoring ones are rubbish. They just think cards are 20 and 10 and 5 on, and double-sided, which is a faff. The Hero Realms ones were a lot better because you had this little one that had the 10s and one that had the 1s on, and you move them up and down and round, which is much simpler. But
it's quite easy to replace them. You can replace it with tokens or an app counter or whatever you want, really, can't you?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
But yeah.
Yeah, I do like deck building games in general.
Yeah. I mean, I like it because it's just, I can just, I can play a game in 10 minutes or whatever, and it's so easy to just jump into. Yeah. And then generally, all the games are quite different, and I can flip around between the different expansions and things, and it's still, satisfactory to get the combos even now. I've been playing it for a year and a half. You still get interesting things happening. And there's the campaign mode as well if you want to do that with different challenges and slightly different rule sets.
I have played that, yeah. I like that as well.
Some interesting things in there, interesting twists. Yeah. I had one very stupid one where we had some sort of extra trashing rules, and the AI, I don't know whether it was a bug or what, but the AI got himself down to one card, which was a base that didn't really do very much, so he literally couldn't do anything for the rest of the game. He had this one base. And that was his entire deck was one card. It was just stupid.
Yeah, sometimes the challenges will add extra rules, and you get a rating at the end. You get like a star rating.
Yeah.
So I quite like replaying them and trying to get 3 stars on each one.
Yes, I do that as well. I try and finish it with 3 stars if I can first. I mean, sometimes I can't. It's good. I just like that game.
Yeah, good pick. Okay, any other games that you've played recently that you want to go through?
I played one on Sunday, which I think was described at the time by somebody who was playing it.
Was that Endogenesis?
One of our club members is here to talk about a game that he played. So here he is. What's your name, please?
Zead.
What have you just been playing?
Endogenesis.
What's it about?
So it's a Kickstarted game, came out a couple of weeks ago. Is essentially all players are playing as new spirits or entities in a newly formed universe, and it's basically a brutal every person for themselves game.
And who won?
Samuel.
Well, Samuel. Thank you. Thanks, Ed.
Mark.
So Samuel, you won.
I did. I played it twice. So I played it the previous Tuesday as well.
Yeah.
And done terribly.
Yeah. It seems a bit of a take that kind of game. I don't really.
It's very, very take that. If you don't like take that, you won't like it. It's a kind of free for all. Sort of a bit of a, I think Angelo described it as a MOBA in card game form a bit. You've got like a few cards that you have a little up to 4 card tableau in front of you, and basically all your cards will probably do damage, pretty much. Or there's a few actual ones that will sort of block damage or redirect it. So basically on your turn you will draw some cards and then do various things in order, like using your cards or swapping them out, or you also have little shards that you use to upgrade your cards or upgrade your health as well. And actually, it upgrades the slot rather than the card. So if you get rid of that card and put a new one in, the new one will come in at whatever level the previous one was at, which is quite nice. And then, so you'll damage things. There's there'll be a monster to fight as well, and that'll give you rewards like cards or shards. Or if it's a legendary one, it'll give you that's what it's called, the prism, I think it's called. If you get 3 prisms, you win. So that's how you win. But if you do get killed, you will just, if you're not getting any prisms, you'll just come back at the start of your next turn and go again. But if you start getting more prisms, it starts to be worse. So you might miss a turn, for example, once you started getting prisms, which is a bit annoying. Although it's not too bad because you won't. It's done so that you're not just going to keep missing turns constantly. So you'll skip a turn, and the turn after that you'll come back with sort of full health and everything. So you won't actually be in the game until you've missed your turn. So you will get at least one more turn before potentially missing another turn if you happen to die again, which is good. But it was quite nice, quite easy to set up. I mean, like I said, it is a lot of take that, so you can sort of go a bit back and forth. So the first game I played, I got a prism quite early then and ended up losing that later on. In fact, I ended up being the only person not to have any by the end of the game. Everyone else had got 2 or 3 that was winning because of the way it went. Whereas this time I got going quite well and sort of kept going. Got sort of one prism, then another one, then got a third one. Didn't really get challenged so much. So I mean, I think my only criticism is not the main deck you draw cards from. You do cycle it 2 or 3 times in the game, so there could perhaps be a few more cards in there, but expansions I'm sure will boost that.
I haven't played it, but I was watching you sort of play it with the other guys there, and the cover looks really nice. It's got kind of like a foil kind of cover.
Yeah, the box is really nice.
And some of the cards are kind of foil as well. So if you think of like Magic the Gathering kind of foil cards, are a bit like that, aren't they?
Yeah, like that. There's really nice art style as well. Sort of the pictures in the middle of the cards and things, and the way it's laid out is really nice, which I do find helps for me when I'm playing a game. It looks nice. Encourages me a bit, but the box is really nice and shiny as well. I mean, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it had a Kickstarter. I think. So I'm not quite sure how much of that is sort of Kickstarter exclusive and how much of that is just sort of standard edition exactly. But yeah. I mean, it's not a huge box actually. I was sort of surprised by it's not a small box, but it's it's not like one of these big square boxes or one of these huge things. It's sort of Century Spice Road size almost. Rather than sort of Terraforming Mars size or whatever. So
sort of mid-box game.
It's a few piles of cards and some tokens. It's not actually.
And roughly how long did it take you to play it? Do you remember?
This time it took us about an hour or so, I think. But I mean, on the Tuesday it took us more like 2.5 hours because it was the first game when we were playing a bit slower. And it does. You do build up because you will get your to kill monsters. You will be gaining shards which allow you to power up your weapon. Spells or whatever they're called, and so then you can do more damage with them and do more things, and you'll see a lot because you draw 2 cards at the start of your turn, so you'll be able to see a lot of cards during the game. So there is definitely a sense of sort of progression, and you will get stronger. You can probably get through it at a fair pace. There is a bit of downtime with people working out what they're going to do, but if everyone who's played knows what they're doing, I think it'll not be too bad, and you might get targeted anyway, so you might probably do something even if it's not your turn a lot of the time.
Would you play it again?
Yeah, I would do. I think, like I mentioned earlier, it's one of those games where you sort of want a few more cards in it. But again, expansions will hopefully. It's a game where I can imagine there'll be quite a few expansions for adding different things in. As I'd imagine after a few games, I'd sort of know all the cards upside down back to front to some extent. So I'd be might be tiring of it a bit.
But need a bit more variety.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, that's perhaps partly just me. But I think it's. Like I said, it's one of those games you probably could have a lot more cards for. It seems easy enough to expand. You could have more cards that do a slightly bigger variety of things. So
yeah.
It'd be easy enough to extend. If you like take-that games, I think. If you don't like take-that games, it's not for you. I don't think. It's absolutely brutal. You just have to take being attacked on the chin because that will happen. You will die. You will. I mean, if you're not, it's not actually that bad as I've said. You will come back pretty quickly.
Yeah, I did notice one of the guys playing it wasn't terribly happy about it, and I don't know if it was over the game, but he seemed a bit distracted and not really into it. But that might be why.
I think it's because it was taking a while to get back to him, and he's not really good with that. He likes it. He doesn't like it when it takes ages to get back to him. He prefers to sort of be always playing.
Right, so not good if you can't cope with downtime.
And we had another one who was new to it. It was taking a while on her turns as well. So.
Moving on then. So the next thing then is question of the week. So Samuel suggested this one. This is, do you play any traditional games? So I guess we should probably start off by talking about what you mean by a traditional game, because to me, a traditional game would probably be something like Carcassonne or Catan or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think you're more talking, Samuel, about the older games where you might play them at Christmas with your family, or something you might have played when you were younger, perhaps.
Yes, I was thinking of more things like a bit like Scrabble, a bit like Trivial Pursuit sprang to mind. Things like Scattergriz or Pictionary, or these kind of bit more family games where you have teams, or you have, if people play, absolute Boulder Dash, things like that.
Things you could pick up in Woolworths in the 80s.
Yes, that kind of thing.
We do have a couple that we played at the club. I know we've got Boulder Dash in the club library. I haven't seen it for a while, so maybe somebody's borrowed it, but we do have that. And I think you played one recently as well, didn't you, Samuel?
Yeah, I played Boulder Dash a while back, but this week, I'm sort of mentioning this now, because this week, while Terraforming Mars was going on one table, a few of us were playing Articulate, or Articulate, so I never know which of those two pronunciations that's supposed to be. On another table, it was very enjoyable. Actually, it was a very good game. We had 3 teams. I was in a team of 3 with James and Fed. We had a couple more teams. I think actually, and they were entirely balanced. We perhaps ought to have checked who was good at what before we started. But early on, it was reasonably close, and then one of the teams pulled ahead a bit. We sort of had a bit of a spread out. We had quite far ahead. Then we had our team was a bit further back, and then the other team was about 7 minutes back again, but sort of maybe a quarter or third of the board behind, so about 10, 12 squares. And so then the team that was ahead got to the last square, and so then all they have to do to win is there's one particular clue on the card. If you play Articulate, they'll have a little spade by it, and so the guesser on that team will read that, will try and get them to guess that clue, and if they can guess it, they will win, otherwise it carries on. And so they got to the end, and my team was the next team back, and we must have been 15 squares behind them, and they must have had about, I wasn't keeping track, it must have been 8 or 9 probably spade cards, or up to that, maybe 7 spade cards, and they didn't get any of them right, and our team inched up and got to the final square and then guessed the spade card correctly, so we won.
So what's the main mechanic? What are you trying to do? You got cards that you're trying to guess a clue on it or something, did you say?
Each team will have a guesser and people who are trying to guess the clues. You'll be on a category, so objects or world or people or so on, and you'll have 30 seconds to sort of describe as many things in that category as you can. So you'll pick up a card, you'll be on, look at the word for your chosen category and go, right, let's say it was an object and it was, I don't know, bath. You say, you're not allowed to say the word that's on the card or derivatives of it. You can't do sounds like, or you can't do the first letter and things like that. You can mime and gesticulate as much as you want. You can't mouth the word either. So for bath, you might go something like, it's the big thing you wash in. So it's like bath, and you'll pick next one up, it's shoe, it's thing you wear on your foot, whatever, and you can try to think of some clues. So for a person, one of the people I noticed early on was Diego Maradona, footballer. So if you know your football, you might just give a clue, the hand of God, and somebody might get that straight away if they know about football. You can try and tailor clues, for example, to the people that you're with. If you know somebody knows quite a lot about maths or fantasy games, or I don't know, depending on what comes on the cards, or nature or science or whatever, you can try and have it knowledge a bit. But and then you after the 30 seconds, you move forward however many you got right. And then it's the next team's turn. But if you land on one of the spade spaces, you have to take up another card and do a spade. And there's no time limit, but everybody guesses. And whichever team guesses it correctly then gets the next turn. So you could potentially lose a turn from that, or gain an extra turn or whatever. Yeah, actually, I wasn't quite sure when we started. We thought, because I've played it before and I quite liked it, but actually, we seemed to have quite a good group with this, and it was good fun. I think the ending as well, where we had one team who got to the end, then just couldn't for the life of them guess their final spade question, and then got pipped. I think that was adding some quite good drama, because that whole bit, once they got to the end, they must have been at the end for about half an hour.
So I'm just having a look at it now. It's from 1992, this game.
Yeah.
So the clues that you'd got, did you find they'd aged at all? Did you find that they were a bit out of date, or? I have a version myself which is a bit newer, but this one was quite old. It came from the guy who got it from a charity shop for £2. Yeah.
It was pretty good. Although, it was missing the entire, but we improvised. So we were finding some old clues. I think the people in particular were quite, we had clues coming up, things like Bjorn Borg and Hannah Manlikova, and what else did we have? I mean, Maradona's not exactly new, and Ted Heath. Ted Heath came up, and I mean, there's a few people that are sort of really old. I think I noticed King Nebuchadnezzar at one point, and you've got people with Thomas Hardy from whatever, so that is a bit different. But and then we had the other thing that definitely dated it is that some of the world things where we had things like Rhodesia, Kampuchea, things like that just don't exist anymore. Which was interesting.
I guess if you're playing with a few younger players, they'll not necessarily know what all those things are. You had some non-English speakers as well, didn't you?
We did. We had a couple of Fed and then Francesco later on. So Fed, I think she had one go at giving clues out and then decided she didn't want to give clues out after that. She carried on playing, she was in our team and got a few clues a bit later on.
That's the downside of some of these older games, isn't it? Some of them don't age particularly well, so they're not great at including everybody.
Yeah.
If it's like particularly a trivia game or a guessing game.
Yeah, a Trivial Pursuit in particular, I think I've seen one or two old versions of Trivial Pursuit. Some of the questions in there are like, I don't know because I wasn't born 40 years ago. It's sort of about, what was happening then, so it's like you'd know if you were playing it then, but you won't now because it's not that big a news now.
Well, I remember years back playing a version of my dad's Trivial Pursuit, and it was, which year did Arsenal famously win the double? And it's like, well, actually, they've done it again. And so, and things like that have happened since. It's like, yeah, this is the problem. You've got to keep trivial ones really have to be an up-to-date version, unless it's kind of Harry Potter Trivial Pursuits, where that's not going to be added on those things.
Yeah, or you're going to get questions where the answer isn't going to change or isn't going to be, duplicated or whatever.
Until 30 years' time, when it's, who played Harry Potter? It's like, was it Daniel Radcliffe or whoever it is in the Harry Potter 2050 reboot?
2050 VR 25D reboot, yeah.
So, well, I've played traditional games fairly recently because my son likes Snakes and Ladders and Build-A-Bug because they're nice, quick little games, but it does get a little bit frustrating when it's the roll and moves where you can't do much, and the Build-A-Bug where it's just those luck-based elements. But thankfully I'm able to push him into things which we wouldn't call a traditional game, but I did play HeroQuest with him and his mum and a friend of ours a few weeks back, so he's happy to play other things when he's got people to help him out, but if it's just a quick game to pick up when we've got 10 minutes or so, we do play some of the old classics where it is just luck-based.
How old is he, Tom?
He is 6,
right.
So probably a little bit young to fully appreciate HeroQuest on his own, but he was enjoying it.
Do you have any of the Habba games or any of this kind of, the newer games that are into that age category? Is like any of those? We
do. Yes. So we have got Chicky Chicky Boom, which is from Blue Orange Games and is a balancing game. We've got Ice Cool, I think again by Blue Orange. And quite often when I've been to UK Games Expo, I've picked up things that are appropriate for my son to play that are. Otherwise, we've got Quirk. He loves that. That's, I think, going to be a modern classic. It's similar to articulating those kind of games where you set collecting, but you've got to act out what you've got on your card for people to guess. And that's a nice little game. The version I've got has got plastic cards, so it works really well to have with kids, but can play elsewhere. But that's not a traditional game, so to speak. We do play some of the modern things, but
HeroQuest is one of those classic ones, isn't it? It's like the one that a lot of people will probably remember playing as kids.
Well, this is the thing. I would have said HeroQuest is a classic game, but I wouldn't say it's still classed within the traditional game sense. Even if you had, what you were just talking about, Sam, is probably newer by a few years or so, because I think HeroQuest came out mid to late 80s. I think people would consider HeroQuest to be not a traditional game, whereas Articulate much more so.
Did you say you played Boulder Dash as well, Samuel?
Yeah, we played that on some of it down to the club on a Friday once.
That's one where you get a word and you have to write out a description of the word.
Yeah, well, there's 2 different categories. We were playing that because we were all a bit knackered and we couldn't bother to play anything too deep. We'd actually, I think it's also because we got about 6 of us, and then we got slightly too many for that kind of game. So I played that, and you have. Again, I've got some, and again, I've got a slightly new version. But this version has got, you have a word where you get a word that you've probably never heard of, and you have to put the definition. You have to write down your definition for it. Well, whichever category you get, you all put something in, and then whoever's person reading them out will read them all out, including the correct one, and everybody votes on which one they think was the correct one, and then you get points based on whether you got the right one, whether people went for yours, and if you're the person guessing it, whether nobody got it or not. So there's word, there's then person, so you have to write down what they were famous for. Did they invent something? Did they do, were they the first person to do something? Have they got the record for this? It tends to be nonsense obscure things a lot of the time. And then there's initials, which is quite good. You have to say what your initials stand for. And there were some quite amusing ones in that. Then you've got film, so you get a film title and have to say a brief description of the plot of the film. And then the last one, this version was, you were given a date, so like 24th of September 1997 or something, or the 14th of March 1922, and you have to say what happened on that date. Oh, in the new version I've got, that last one is replaced by, you have to complete a law, so like in Arkansas it is illegal to ride, and you have to complete that, so it might be a giraffe after dusk or something.
And you said the version you've got, so have you got like a newer version of this game then?
I seem to have got a slightly new version of it, which is, the only difference is that last category is different, the rest of it's exactly the same. Well, the boards are different. I've got a slightly different board as well.
I wonder if they're still making it now then. I wonder if they're still releasing it and you can buy it.
Yeah, well, probably. I think it's probably still available somewhere.
And how do you think it held up? Was that okay? No.
Yeah, I think it held up alright. I feel like we did have a couple of times where their definition didn't match up to the actual definition. We sure we had one where I think wasn't where the definition just didn't, or the personal something just didn't match up to what it actually was, because either we googled it or somebody knew it or something. We had a bit of I remember there being one when we had a debate where something wasn't quite right. But it tends to use fairly old. I think a lot of, say, the people and things will be from at least sort of 50, 60, 70 years ago anyway. So
yeah. And,
it's about things that have happened, so that's not going to change. So, the definitions of whatever they are. So it doesn't, it's not too based on sort of, trivia or facts or well, it's not based on facts, but it's not based on, it matters less if it gets older, I think, because of how it works. What happened on such and such a date, that date's gone, so that will always have happened on that date, it's not going to change. The film plots will always be the same now because that's what the film was and so on.
I think sometimes these kind of games they will seem a bit dated, like Tom said, if they've got like older mechanics that you don't really see these days, like roll and move, where it's not particularly fair, or if you're asking trivia questions where a person needs to know the answer to kind of win the game, that's not really fair either, is it? But a lot of people, I guess, will probably still play these. A lot of people will still have them in the cupboards to get them out at Christmas and New Year's when family come round and still probably play them and still probably enjoy them. Yes,
I very much enjoyed it actually on Tuesday. Like I said, it was actually quite good fun.
Well, can I say what some people consider a dirty word then? Monopoly.
Yes. Boo. Yeah.
How many different versions are there?
I deliberately left that off the list because I know we're not very big Monopoly fans, although I do have a couple of versions.
Rick, do you own any versions of Monopoly?
No, my parents owned it, and I don't know if they still do, but when I was younger I can remember it being kept under the cupboard, and it used to come out at Christmas, and we always used to cheat by stealing from the bank and not playing by the rules properly and things like that. I can't remember us ever having an auction or a...
No, I never had auctions. I had a couple of versions as a kid and played it a lot. Never had auctions.
But no, I've not played it since I was about 10, I think.
Yeah, I've played it since then. I do have a wooden version which does occasionally get played, but it is the case of I'm finding more the roll and move element is a little bit frustrating to a point.
I definitely find it less enjoyable than I sort of did before I started getting into proper board games.
Likewise.
Like I say, I haven't played it for a long time, but I guess if you like a particular theme, there will be a game that's themed around it somewhere out there.
Probably.
Because they release kind of every version under the sun, don't they? So you could play whatever version you wanted to.
I've got a Fallout version of Monopoly.
And some people who play Monopoly, really like it and play it all the time. If you do like these kind of games, then a lot of times you can have a wander around the charity shops and there'll be the odd game there that you can find. I call in every now and then, and I'll pop in and have a look through, because I like looking at the knickknacks, and I'll have a look through the DVDs and, the CDs and things like that.
Yeah, I like to go to charity shops as well. Yeah,
just to see what's there, really. And a lot of these, these kind of games you can see there. And like I said, some of them hold up and some don't really. But one game that I bought recently was Centipede. This is from 1983, I think. And this is the old MB games version based on the old video game, the old Atari video game.
Okay.
So this is just for 2 players, and I've not played it, so I don't know what it's like, but it's actually full of little plastic bits. And so I bought it for like £1.50 or something, and I was really surprised to get it home and find that everything was there. It was all the pieces were there, all the little plastic bits, all the cards and everything. Even the stickers, there's like stickers that you stick on the plastic bits to show whether they're like mushrooms or whatever. The sheet from all the stickers was still in there as well, and a little advert of all the all the toys that from that era. So I don't think it's one that particularly would help. It's got a spinner in it, this one, so you spin the spin around, and that tells you whether you can move the centipede or whether you move a spider or you can shoot at the mushrooms or whatever. So again, I don't know if it'll hold up, but I was actually looking online to see if it was worth anything, to see if it was valuable. It is not, unfortunately. These are like, you can buy them on eBay for next to nothing. But what I saw actually was a new Centipede game. So there's a newer version of Centipede, which is quite a recent game. I've not seen it, I've not played it, I don't know anything about it. But
no, me neither.
I don't know if that's a similar kind of game, but that I'd look on Amazon for that, and that was £8 and 1 penny to buy it from Amazon.
Does that have updated trivia questions then?
Possibly, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, if I think it's a completely different game. It's obviously a bit more designed with a bit more modern kind of, because there's a series of them. I saw a missile command game and a few other bits and bobs as well. So it might be tempted just to pick one of those up just to try it and see what it was like. Yeah. I've actually got the sheet here. There's a sheet inside it which is like an advert for games of the time. So on here we've got Game of Life.
Oh yeah.
Twister.
Yeah, another one.
Yeah, that's classic.
What else have we got? Hangman, which is like a traditional game, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a Pac-Man game.
Okay.
Battleships.
Oh yeah, I had that one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes, I've played that before.
Oh, Yahtzee. I actually played that.
The digital version, didn't
I played
you,
that last week, I think, with Sam. Yeah.
I've played Yahtzee. I had a word Yahtzee as well, which was the same thing, but you had letters on the dice, I think, and you're trying to make words. That's a very long time since I played it, so I can't quite remember exactly how it worked. Yeah,
so some of these games will probably hold up better than others, I guess.
Definitely.
Especially, like you say, if they are trivia-based, then, if it's quite an old game, then you're probably not going to know half of who the people are who are in there.
No.
Okay.
I was just going to go for a quick 2 minutes on a couple of independents on Kickstarter, if that's groovy. Yeah, there's a couple of projects started the other week on Kickstarter, which are by some independent publishers. I've met them at conventions or at playtest sessions. So the first one I want to talk about is Daring Dust Bunnies by Andy Hopwood or Hopwood Games. Met Andy at a Birmingham Board Game Bash. Saw the artwork. The artwork is really cute but really nice. It really gets into the feel of these little fluff balls, but they are bunny based. Just to keep with the theme, and it's a kind of push your luck, but also random identity. So lots of interesting choices on what you're doing. There's it's a sort of a mid-box game, as we were talking about earlier, like Century Spice Road, but with different cards. You've got tokens, and you've got different playboards as well. So you've got different setup each time you play. And it's not too expensive. I think it's about £25 on Kickstarter. £25. It's £20. So I completely wrong there. So a nice little game. I think it would work well with families because of the artwork, and isn't particularly tricky gameplay. But there's enough choice elements in there, so it's not totally random. You've got a cat meeple and a dog meeple, which I think is pretty cool. And it's currently over 50% funded with a number of weeks to go. and yeah, would be really good one to try and to have and to play. The other one I wanted to talk about quickly as well is Weird Alchemy by Clever Unicorn Games, and this one is funded. And this is a card game. You've got the standard deck at, I think, $9, so less than a tenner, and the deluxe deck at $13, so a little over a tenner, so $12. And so yeah, these are just card game. The artwork is even better than the other one. You've got lots of weird monsters, so you've got Cthulhu, you've got a gelatinous bunny.
Yeah, it's fantastic, the artwork. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, we'll look at this.
And I know this is the first of a couple of games the Clever Unicorn are working on. The guys are really, it's a two-team kind of setup. So you've got one guy, Dan, who's mainly involved in the business side. The other guy, Chris, is the designer. And so you've got, as a team, works really well. And for something that's funded or hit its funding level and is just going to improve as you go along, it's definitely worth something sort of back for a tenner, effectively.
Yeah, I love the artwork on this. It's brilliant. It's a little bit, the cover of it is like a big eyeball in like a purple monster face, and it's a little bit Monsters Inc., a little bit of Monty Python. A
little bit of Salvador Dali thrown in.
Yeah. It's like that weird kind of freaky but really cool kind of monsters and things. Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah, so I've backed it because it's a tenner, nice guys, and very much two things from independent companies to just keep an eye out if you want to get something that's not too expensive, £10 or £20. You can't go wrong, really.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to check those out. Yeah, they sound great. Right, so we'll wrap it up for this episode then. Thank you for listening to everybody, and thank you for joining me, Samuel and Tom, as ever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
A bit of information about the club. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on the forum. We are www.sheffieldboardgamers.com. You can email us at sheffieldboardgamers@gmail.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. If you want to come and play some games, we meet twice a week. So come along and play some games with us. Tom, do you want to give us your details, please?
So I can be found at Redwell Games on Facebook and Twitter, or the website is www.redwellgames.com.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you again next time. Goodbye for now.
Bye.
Ta-ra for now. Bye.